My dad always loves to tell me how beautiful I am, but not really in a wholesome way. He always likes to remind me that I'm beautiful because then he asks me if I know why I'm so beautiful. And then he wants me to tell him that it's because I look like him. Uh, but it is true, I do look like him. I get told by most people that I look like my dad, and I also get hangry like my dad. I'm also like my mom. I can be a little bit kept to myself at times, and I'm a disciplined person like her. But, anyways, the point is that in the same way that we can be a reflection of our parents, we should also be a reflection of God towards others. So, how can we reflect God inside and mostly outside of the church? First, it's important to maintain a relationship with God so we begin to change our ways for the better and unconsciously start reproducing the fruits of the Spirit. So, the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control. So, keeping that relationship with God also allows us to see our flaws and make conscious changes, or at least ask God to help us make those changes in our lives. But the thing is that relationships are not meant to be unilateral. Relationships don't work if only one person is putting in the effort. And in this case, God is always putting in the effort, and we just kind of have to meet him there. So, what we can do is it's our job to read the Bible, to pray, to fast, to worship God so we can maintain that relationship with him, and then we can start to change for the better. In Exodus, we can see that Moses had a great relationship with God. Specifically, my favorite part is when he says to the Holy Spirit, I don't want to go anywhere if you're not coming with me. And I think we should all think that way. But to be more specific, when he went up to Mount Sinai for 40 days and 40 nights, and then he came back down, Exodus 34:29 through 31 says, it should be up there somewhere. Says, he was not aware that his face was radiant because he had spoken with the Lord. When Aaron and all the Israelites saw Moses, his face was radiant, and they were afraid to come near him. But Moses called to them. So Aaron and all the leaders of the community came back to him, and he spoke to them. Literally, Moses became more physically radiant because of the connection that he had with God. So radiant that he would wear a veil because people were scared of his shiny, bright face whenever he spoke to them. So the point here is that we should be changed when we have a relationship with God. We should want to be different when we have a relationship with God compared to other people. And we should hope that we are a reflection of God's glory when we are around others, just how Moses was. The second way that we can reflect God inside and outside of the church is by using the greatest human example that God has given us, which is Jesus. Jesus was the epitome of what it is to be a good person. First of all, he was humble. For example, he washed his disciples' feet. In John 13:13 through 17, it says, you call me teacher and Lord, rightfully so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. So Jesus came down here to heaven as the Son of God, yet he never expected anyone to serve him. In fact, he was here to serve others. So we should have that same mentality of being here to serve others. And we can do this by serving the church when it's needed and also by putting others above ourselves, but in a healthy way. Jesus was also compassionate. In John 8, there's a story where there was a woman that was caught in the act of adultery, and she was going to be stoned to death by the Pharisees. But Jesus said, all right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone. And later, when everyone left, and no one threw a stone because everyone is a sinner, in John 8:10 to 11, it says, where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you? No, Lord, she said. And Jesus said, neither do I. Go and sin no more. Jesus was not there to judge her, but rather to show her God's love and God's mercy and God's grace. We should show grace to other people who have sinned and who have a past, because we are also sinners and we also have a past. Jesus was also giving. One example is that he provided food for the hungry multitudes. Well, I didn't pick a verse for this because it's in like all the gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, everywhere. But the point is that it's good to be a giving person, just like Jesus was. You can be giving in a lot of ways. A lot of people think it's a monetary thing, like if you're fortunate, give to the less fortunate, which is true, we should do that. But also a good way of giving is giving our time, and that's something that's free and you don't have to pay for it. So for example, the choir and the musicians, we give our time by coming to practices. The people that give lessons give their time by making the lessons. People that have Bible studies give their time by opening their home. So yeah, we should want to be giving just how Jesus was. Jesus was also forgiving. So many people were against Jesus. If there's one thing that you can see in the New Testament is that pretty much everyone hated Jesus for literally no reason. He literally did nothing to deserve all the hate that he got, and all the pain that he received. Yet in the end, when he was dying on that cross, he still asked God to forgive them all because they did not know what they were doing. I think that if Jesus could forgive for such horrible actions from so many people, we can also forgive others for the smaller, more incomparable things that people have done to us. And above all, we should love one another. That can help us reflect God inside and outside of the church. God calls us to love one another. In 1 John 4:8, it says, "Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love." The best way to represent God is to remember that all of us are God's children, so we should treat each other like family. And because through Christ, we are family. Something great about the Bible is that it also tells us exactly what love is and how to love one another. 1 Corinthians 13:4-7 says, "Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres." When we truly love everyone the way that we should, everything else becomes easy. It becomes easier to forgive. It becomes easier to be humble. It becomes easier to be kind to each other. So a good way to test this, or like, I guess to see if you're loving the way that we should love, is by changing the word love to I, like this. I am patient. I am kind. I am not envious. I do not boast. I am not proud. I do not dishonor others. I am not self-seeking. I am not easily angered. I keep no record of wrongs. I do not delight in evil, but rejoice in the truth. I always protect, I always trust, I always hope, and I always persevere. So if there's any of those if there's any of those pieces in that verse that you can't really relate to, or that you know that you maybe should want to relate to them a little more, then you can ask God to help you in that part of your life. So why does it matter that we reflect God? First, it's important because people often encounter God first through us and not through the scripture. Whenever I listen to people's testimonies, they never really say, "Oh yeah, I opened my Bible and that's how I found God." Usually they say, someone gave something to me, or someone was generous with me, or someone was kind with me, and that person shared the love of God to me, and because of that, I came to church, or I read my Bible. So we should want to be the light of the world to other people because God asked us to do that. I was watching a clip of a preacher, and he says, "For some of you, you're the only Bible your family members or friends are ever going to read." So people should see God's love live through us. How we treat people testifies about the God that we serve. Our daily behavior and character shows us what we truly believe. The way that we live becomes a visible example of what a Christian is like to others. So, the second point of why it matters to reflect God is that our actions can lead people closer to God or farther away from them. Our lives demonstrate the evidence of God's love and work in the inside of us. I think that it is a privilege to be example of God's mercy, of God's love, of God's glory. So we should want to be the best example that we can be for other people. When people see our lives, they decide whether Christianity or having a relationship with God is worth pursuing. Being a poor reflection of God, like being rude, being impatient, being prideful, disrespectful, lying, tearing others down, speaking poorly on people, can close doors to the kingdom. Faithfulness in reflecting God can help us open hearts to him. So I have a question. If others judged God by your actions, would they be drawn closer or pushed away from God? The way that we reflect God can either open doors to salvation or quietly shut them. So, all in all, to conclude, it is important for us to reflect on ourselves and ask ourselves if we are truly representing God when we're out in the world. Do we spread kindness? Do we help those in need? Are we patient? Are we slow to anger? Do we forgive the people who have done us wrong? Do we love others despite their flaws? I don't think that God expects us to be perfect people. After all the people that he uses in the Bible, like Moses, David, Samson, all those great people that had a great relationship with him, also were very flawed people. But we should want to better ourselves and to be that reflection of God for others. So here's another question. Would God be proud of how you show his character to the people around you? I think that we should strive each day to reflect God's character by choosing kindness, by choosing patience, by choosing forgiveness, and choosing love. That's it. Thank you.